Hey guys, how's it going? A little bit behind here, 4:30, but it's all right. Um, anyway, I just wanted to kind of use this classroom stage to take some time to brush people up if they don't uh, have the history or the knowledge of, or maybe they're just starting out and getting used to all the verbiage and lingo and everything that comes with dealing with everything we discuss here. Um, I just want to give people a better understanding of how economics works and just kind of make the whole idea of the theory of it a little bit more well known. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. I've got a slideshow that I've kind of put together, about 10, 11 slides, so we won't be here all day or anything like that. But at the end of that, I'll open it up and then we can kind of go over just whatever questions you may or may not have, and we can go from there. But we'll try to keep it short today, probably, half hour, 45 minutes at the most, but we'll see. But we'll go ahead and get started here. So I've got the first slide, just an introduction to basic economics, and go ahead and get it to switch to the next slide here. So it's all on the YouTube if you're not able to see it here. I'm still kind of getting used to this part of Discord, but if you do have the YouTube live stream pulled up, I've got the slideshow running there. But yeah, like I said, we'll go ahead and get started. So basic economics. How can we simplify the game that we're all caught up in, basically? We just want to build a strong foundation of knowledge. We'll cover a little bit of micro and macroeconomics here, but um, essentially, economics is more than just money. It's mostly about choices. Practically every choice, every decision we make, it has an economic impact. I mean, if, uh, if you had a choice to be somewhere else other than right here, you still made a choice to be here, in a way that could be economical in a sense that uh, more viewers on the YouTube channel means more people getting in the Discord, more attention, more eyes on everything we're trying to bring awareness to. But all these choices, we have to make them despite the main economic problem, and that's scarcity. So scarcity is essentially just limited resources for unlimited needs and wants. That's the easiest way to kind of describe that. But time is one of the most, that is the ultimate scarce resource, as we all know. We'll go ahead and move on here to the next slide. Okay, so scarcity is pretty much the main problem with economics. It's like we said, it's the consumption of the products you buy, the food that you go to the grocery store and pick up, the shelter that you pay for, either rent, a mortgage, whatnot, or healthcare even. If um, if you didn't produce it, then you purchase. So think about your basic needs. Do you still have some of the things to fill in? Maybe you have all of your needs met, but not really any of your wants. Or maybe you're Tony Montana from Scarface and you got all the needs plus drugs. Kidding, kidding. But you get it. All of us have different needs and wants, but not all of us make the right moves to check off all the boxes. But it's kind of why we're here. Just kind of help build each other up the game that. Um, how does that affect your choice as a consumer though? Maybe you have to go with store brands for your basic food items just to save a little bit of money so you can make sure that all your needs are getting at least most. Uh, Maybe you get to pick up on the leading national brand. Maybe you get to, buy Heinz ketchup instead of Great Value. I don't know. Uh, Maybe your entire pantry, maybe you've got it set up like a freaking corner store ran by Whole Foods. Like you've just got organic everything, locally sourced, whatever. You've got your needs and your wants. But either way, this sort of thinking it doesn't end with individuals. Uh, Government, they've got their choices to make, like new school or road improvement. Which one's in the budget this year? But kind of the main idea of scarcity. But what we want to do, flip to the next slide. Okay, so yeah, we want to look at how we can ease scarcity. So how can we do that? Can we, maybe move to a more self-reliant lifestyle? Like, back whenever supply chain, instead of being on a national supply chain where everything is on a just-in-time basis, meaning uh, nobody really cares like a deep stock of inventory. They see that it's cheaper to just kind of uh, produce a lot of goods at once, but just in time. Like they don't want a huge stockpile taking up room on shelves and warehouse. They just want it all right there at the last. It used to be more, you'd have a local grocer, and all the local farmers would sell their food at the local grocer. Uh, that way, it's you're not going to get as much of the variety as maybe we see today, but you'll see, back then there wasn't really a whole lot of issues with like things running out or shortage or anything. But maybe building homes for one's family or like tending a farm, bartering goods produced at home instead of relying on fiat currency or something like that. Maybe you've got a good crop of zucchinis growing in your garden this year, so you bake some of it up and make a nice bread out of it, and you barter that to the neighbor for they come over and mow your lawn or something like bartering system, just kind of removing the whole currency aspect of it, relying more on the service aspect. Which that reliance itself, does that kind of allude to us being too reliant on modern conveniences today? Like we're seeing issues with shortages all over the place where everybody is so reliant on uh, like gas right now, with the Colonial Pipeline having issues coming back online and going offline and all that. You're seeing an increase in prices at the pump. Maybe it's directly correlated. I'm not entirely certain, but over here on the southeast coast of the country, we do have an increase in our gas prices compared to last year, about 50% higher. So maybe we are a little bit too reliant. Maybe we should kind of think about going back to a little bit more. And I think there is kind of a culture of that brewing already. Like a lot of the people that are they're into DIY stuff. Maybe they make pallet furniture and they trade it to somebody to do the electrical on their van that they're converting to do like stealth camping in parking lots. But that's a whole nother subject. But I'll go ahead and hit the next second. But kind of thinking of the whole supply chain, we've got this the big handsome guy here, Adam Smith. This guy, he wrote The Wealth of Nations back in 1776. He was the one that basically introduced the idea of division of labor. And basically, what that means is dividing the way that goods are produced and maybe a service is provided, breaking it up into sections or smaller tasks so that individual workers can specialize in one thing. So think of like an assembly line. Um, you don't have anybody that's just one person is building the entire car. You've got people do different parts of it. You've got people that they'll work on putting the transmission gearbox together, and then they'll ship that part down the line, and somebody will work on putting the bell housing together to go on the end of it. Like everybody's kind of got their own specialization, so they can get really good at that and they get really efficient. So that's kind of where in our next slide, that would pull up just a second. Yeah, that's, in our next slide, that's where we're kind of looking at more of that division of labor kind of broken down a bit more. We've got a little kind of a comic almost of the assembly line created by Henry Ford, and it's kind of descriptive as far as how it's broken down here. So in the upper left-hand corner, in 1913, automobile boss Henry Ford introduced the assembly line for Model T car production. So supervisors use stopwatches to time the speed of workers. Workers did one small task over and over, resulting in new, closely managed division of labor. And then they've got a little comic here with the, I guess, supervisor going, "You're slouching. Stop slowing down. Work. You've got to make more. You've got to make the quota, or we're all in trouble." And he's going, "I can't do it any faster." Got the riveting gun right there going on. But the new system required constant surveillance by supervisors to ensure individual workers didn't slow down fast-moving assembly line. So the tracking began and ended the day as workers had to punch the clock, which created a record of their entry and exit. So, punching the time clock, we've all been there. But the labor turnover was high due to the stress of being told when to talk, where to stand, how to move, over and over and over again. I think we're kind of seeing that maybe with Amazon and some of these warehouses that they have a lot of issues with, but that's a whole nother story, I'm sure. But anyway, we've got a lot of questions here that are in the slide, like how is this possible? And the cartoon kind of broke it down for us. But businesses can use or utilize the economies of scale that comes from using division of labor practice and ideas in their workplace. It's a greater level of production, which means a lower cost of production. So price of goods get cheaper and the price of labor kind of goes along with it, it seems. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. So anyway, yeah, next slide here, markets and trade. So a con of specialization, it only works if the workers are free to spend their pay on other goods and services. So that kind of goes back into our scarcity a little bit there. But specialization requires trade, and there's four basic market types that kind of they have a different viewpoint of how they spend their pay or how they specialize in their own economies. Like in a traditional economy, it is a barter system, it's self-reliant, etc. Command economy is a government monopoly. Government decides what is produced and how much is. So they've kind of got the final and really only say in the whole thing. A market economy is no government control. Citizens decide the production, and government can decide the price ceiling. So the consumer basically makes the choices as to what's available just by kind of voting with their wallet. But the government can decide on how much the goods can cost, and put a cap on if they get a little bit too expensive or out of hand. But at the end here, you've got a mixed economy. It's kind of all of the above combined, but the government still has some control, but free enterprises do exist. So that's kind of what we're in here in the U.S. So kind of break it down a little bit more here in the next few slides. So the next slide here, we've got that's actually a parade for Haitian pride. They're one of the traditional economies in the world. Some of the pros and cons of those economies, though, pros would be they can distribute the resources, and it's very well known. So they understand basically what they have and where it's going as far as resources go. It is more sustainable in a sense because there's not really so much of a reliance on industrialization. Everything's kind of local, a little bit more specialized again. But it also fosters togetherness and cooperation. There's a lot of cultural ties to those types of economies, so they kind of have it ingrained in them to cooperate with each other, and that's just kind of the way things are kind of mentality. But it is very dependent on nature most of the time, and because of that, it can cause environmental issues like over farming or overfishing possibly. It's not likely to change or really progress into anything more than what it already is. But it does have a downfall. In my opinion, its weakest downfall is it can be overpowered by large companies. So you could have a situation kind of similar where you have a big company come in and maybe they buy up a lot of the property for a forested area, and now the prices of homes and lumber or whatnot have gone up for those countries. maybe that's one thing. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide here. Talk about the next economy, and that's a command economy. So we've got a picture here. This gentleman's walking down the street in Cuba. That's one of the command economies of the world. They don't allow monopolies to form, so that's a pro. Um, Sometimes, though, in my opinion, and this is unrelated, sometimes good monopolies can form. In my opinion, a good monopoly forms. That means that the market is pretty much satisfied. But they're not always good. But they boost industrial power, so that's kind of the opposite of the last one, where they do have more of an industrialized economic footprint. But they also prioritize social welfare, so they tend to believe in uh, education for everybody and providing that through the state. That's one example, or maybe healthcare. Um, it does kind of restrict your freedom to choose as a consumer. Uh, it also can ignore some needs of society, but it also causes black market form within society or within the economy. So there's another con there. And let's see here. We'll move on to the next one. Market economy. This is what we're in here in the U.S. So it's a win-win for capitalists and consumers. So business owners are able to kind of freely operate their business for the most part, just the same as consumers are free to spend as they choose. Uh, Motivates merchandisers to really rely on their product image to give them a boost in that uh, foothold in the consumer marketplace or whatnot. And that's basically they want to provide the highest quality product. And let's see. Just a second. But anyway, moving on here. It is pretty good for creating employment opportunities. It is kind of based on that work ethic of everybody has a job to do and should really, you know, not to not to say that this is the way that things should be, but it kind of promotes pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make things happen for yourself mentality. It does encourage a lot of competition, which, in my opinion, is another good thing because then you have these companies competing for your dollars as a consumer, and the more that you spend on a company's product, the longer that they're going to be around, the more they'll be able to hopefully innovate or improve their product. It can create imbalances. Basically, you can have kind of a sort of a monopoly where maybe one or two companies are really kind of taking over the entire market and not really allowing anyone else to come in. Commodity prices can skyrocket like we're seeing with oil right now, or with gas, I mean. Gas goes up, everything else kind of goes up. The farmers can't put gas in tractors as cheaply. The farmers can't, transport their crops to the store or the processor as cheaply. Like, it's just all kind of related and tangled together. Um, and lastly, here, it can impact the environment. You get a lot of over farming, or maybe like Nestle going into a lot of these communities and buying up the water rights and just kind of leaving a mess of the place. It's just kind of something maybe everybody should look into with that one. But last slide here. Why study economics? It's not just a study of memorization. It's how to basically ask questions and make better choices as a consumer. That give me just some water. But anyway, moving on here. Uh, like I said earlier, nearly every issue in the world has an economic aspect to it. Every choice you make, there is some kind of impact to it. Uh, and we want to use that knowledge to be a more well-rounded person and kind of make better choices, not just financially, but just kind of overall. Like, where's my dollar going? Like, is this dollar going to a good company, or is it providing something for someone else in return? those kind of questions. But I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there, and I'll open it up. We can ask some questions or just kind of chit chat for the next, say, 10 minutes, and we'll go from there. Yeah, if anybody's got any questions or anything like that, just raise your hand and ask, or we can type it in the classroom chat if you have them, or if everybody's pretty cool with that, we can move on and work on it for the next time. Danny, I just saw your request and I sent the invite, so there we go.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Can y'all hear me?
We got it. We can hear you.
Good to speak to all of y'all. No, I just have a question. I stumbled upon this classroom. It seems really interesting, and just wanted to know if there's gonna be more of these uh, classroom chats in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Like this is kind of something new for me. Like I was just kind of looking for a way to feel like I'm doing something around here other than just other than just like maintaining the Discord or whatnot. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'll probably try to make this like a once or twice a week thing. They'll probably be a little bit longer in the future. I just had some stuff come up the last minute really.
awesome. Yeah, I just like I said, I stumbled up. It really seems like like a good thing to know, especially with everything going on with yeah, pretty much everything with oil and stocks and just like everything. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear it, man. For sure. Like that's kind of my thing. Like, I know not every place in the world requires someone to take an econ class in school, but where I'm from, we had to, at least back whenever I was going through. Uh, so it's just kind of always been one of my classes that I've really hung on to and enjoyed even long after graduating. So if I can pass it on to people and kind of make this whole situation just a little bit easier to understand, then I'm doing my job. But yeah, I do want to put out there, like, I'm not an expert or an advisor or anything. Anything that you do, it's your own money. Just remember that. You push the button.
definitely, I totally understand. But yeah, good to know, and hopefully I'll catch one of these next time.
Well, good deal, brother. And they are live streamed on YouTube. I think I said that at the beginning. So I'm sure that they'll be available kind of like an on demand, if you want to go back and rewatch or something like that later. But
Okay. What was the YouTube channel?
I'm gonna put it or I think Ken is gonna put it in the chat for the classroom here. So
Okay.
it should already be down. Yeah, it's down there. Okay.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, man.
No problem. You got anybody else, or did he kind of do it for everybody? I'll stay in here another couple minutes, but I think that pretty much wraps it up. Like I said to Danny here just a minute ago, in the future there'll probably be a little bit more in depth, maybe a little bit more substance to them. But for now, this was just kind of like a trial thing, see how it went and the response. But with that being said, guys, just enjoy your weekend, and I'm sure I'll see you guys around.